There is a kind of exhaustion that sleep can never cure, a heaviness in the soul that no amount of rest, distraction, or ambition can lift. It is the feeling of being awake to the absurdity of existence, of seeing through the illusions that keep most people moving forward. And no one articulated this condition better than Emil Cioran. Cioran was a philosopher who didn't search for meaning, he dismantled it. He saw optimism as a disease, hope as a deception, and consciousness as a cosmic error. His philosophy was not one of resolution, but of disillusionment. And yet, within his dark musings, there was a strange kind of liberation. Born in 1911 in a small Romanian village, Cioran was the son of an Orthodox priest, yet from an early age he was plagued by doubt. While other children played and dreamed, Cioran lay awake, tormented by insomnia, staring at the ceiling and questioning the necessity of existence itself. Insomnia would shape his entire life, becoming more than a condition. It became a lens through which he viewed the world. To him, sleeplessness was not just the absence of rest, but an exposure to raw existence, stripped of its comforting illusions. To live is to suffer an absence of meaning in conditions which make it impossible to find any, he wrote. Most philosophers try to find a way out. They search for meaning, for systems, for logic. Cioran, however, took the opposite approach. He did not attempt to construct meaning, he tore it down. He admired Nietzsche, but went even further. Where Nietzsche called for a re-evaluation of values, Cioran asked, why have values at all? Where Camus spoke of defying the absurd, Cioran questioned whether defiance itself was just another trap. He rejected ideology, dismissed history, and saw progress as a joke played on humanity by time itself. For him, every achievement was just another step towards the abyss. Every civilization just another name on a long list of things that will eventually collapse into dust. Unlike existentialists who demand action, Cioran embraced the opposite: inaction, withdrawal, the refusal to participate in the grand theater of human affairs. Engagement with the world as complicity in a meaningless game. He once remarked, "We define only out of despair. We mustn't attribute significance to the meaningless." And so he wandered through life as a spectator, watching with both fascination and disgust as humanity marched forward, blind to its own futility. His rejection of engagement wasn't just intellectual, it was deeply personal. Unlike Sartre or Camus, he avoided academic circles, dismissed the idea of building a philosophical system, and even rejected the label of philosopher. Instead, he saw himself as a failed poet, someone who could only articulate his thoughts through fragmented, aphoristic observations, sharp, cutting, and deeply unsettling. For Cioran, the greatest tragedy of life was not suffering or death, it was consciousness itself. To be aware was to be cursed. He believed animals, in their ignorance, were far better off than humans, were condemned to reflect endlessly on their own existence. He envied those who lived without question, but those who did not suffer under the weight of knowing. And yet, despite this bleak view, he never ended his own life. He lingered in the contradiction of his own philosophy, recognizing that even despair could become a form of twisted enjoyment. No one recovers from the disease of being born, he wrote. A novel is never anything but a philosophy put into images. That is why philosophers write novels, and why poets secretly philosophize. But was Cioran just a prophet of despair? Or was there something hidden within his philosophy? Some paradoxical wisdom that could actually help us live? His writings, bleak as they are, reveal something strangely liberating. The idea that once we abandon the desperate need for meaning, we might finally be free. Not in the way society defines freedom, but in a deeper, more terrifying, yet exhilarating way. There are moments in life when the weight of existence becomes unbearable, not because of any particular tragedy, but because of the sheer, relentless persistence of it. You wake up, you move, you perform the rituals of the day, but somewhere beneath it all, there's a whisper, one that asks why. Emil Cioran lived inside that whisper. He was not a philosopher in the traditional sense. He built no system, sought no resolution. He was a chronicler of suffering, a poet of disillusionment, a man who looked at life and saw not a grand narrative, but a series of failures dressed up as progress. There is something strangely seductive about Cioran's philosophy. Unlike other thinkers who try to inspire or guide, he does neither. He offers no hope, no path forward, only a mirror. A mirror that reflects the void and dares you to keep looking. Most of us spend our lives running from despair, masking it with distractions, with ambitions, with rituals of productivity. But what happens when you stop running? When you sit with the absurdity of life and let it seep into your bones? Cioran's answer was simple. You laugh. Not the laugh of joy. The laugh of someone who finally understands the joke. To understand Cioran fully, we have to look at the book that defined his worldview, The Trouble of Being Born. If Nietzsche shattered traditional morality and Camus wrestled with the absurd, Cioran did something different. He whispered into the void, embracing the idea that existence itself was a mistake. Written in short, cutting aphorisms, this book isn't an argument, it's a confession. A collection of thoughts from a man who no longer sought meaning, but only the poetry of despair. He saw birth not as a miracle, but as an affliction. To him, life was a comedy in which the joke is that we take it seriously. But how did he arrive at this? What shaped his bleak, yet strangely liberating view of the world? We suffer because we know too much. The moment you gain awareness of your own impermanence, your own irrelevance, you are cursed. Cioran envied the animals, not because they were strong or fast, but because they were blissfully unaware. He once said, "I long to be free, desperately free. Free as the stillborn are free." And that is the paradox of intelligence. The more we understand, the more we suffer. But is suffering always a curse, or is it the price we pay for seeing clearly? And this is where Cioran becomes dangerous. If nothing has meaning, if everything is absurd, then why participate? Why struggle? Why choose one thing over the other when both will eventually dissolve into the same nothingness? Cioran did not advocate death. He did not demand that we leave the game entirely. Instead, he suggested something even more radical. Stay, but detach. Let go of the illusions that anything truly matters. And in doing so, paradoxically, you might just find yourself free. You ever wonder if the greatest scam in history is existence itself? The fact that we wake up every morning, go through the motions, chase dreams that aren't even ours, hoping, begging, that somewhere along the way something will make sense, but it never does. We build monuments, start wars, create gods, and write philosophies, all just to distract ourselves from one simple truth. We were thrown into this world without reason, and one day we'll leave it just as blindly. We are prisoners of time, shackled to a body that decays while our mind suffers the curse of awareness. We see everything slipping, yet we keep pretending, keep hoping, keep forcing meaning into a universe that never asked for us. Cioran knew this. He didn't suspect it, he lived it. He carried the burden of knowing that life is not a puzzle to be solved, but a tragedy to be endured. Perhaps the greatest lesson from Cioran is not despair, but how to wear despair lightly. How to hold suffering in your hands, examine it, and instead of fighting it, just let it be. He understood something that most of us spend our lives trying to ignore. That to exist is to carry a weight that will never be lifted. And so he did the only logical thing. He laughed. Maybe that's the only real answer. Not to fight, not to resist, but to acknowledge the absurdity of it all, and in doing so find a twisted sort of joy. Cioran's philosophy isn't comforting. It doesn't offer hope or meaning. But maybe that's exactly why it's worth talking about. So what do you think? Is there freedom in embracing the absurd? Or is it just another trap? Let me know in the comments. And if you found this video thought-provoking, consider leaving a like. It helps more than you think. Thanks for watching.